Hi, and welcome to another Heaven, Man, Earth podcast. Today we're talking about the path of Tai Chi, or better said, the Tai Chi as a spiritual path. Because Tai Chi is seen as a martial arts, most of it, but there's a deeper level regarding that. So let's talk about your earliest memory of starting Tai Chi.
Well, I first started because my external Kung Fu teacher said that I should do Tai Chi, and I said, yes, Sifu. Like I always said to him, it's the only thing you ever need to say to them. So I just did it. He said, do Tai Chi, it's like putting dollars in the bank for later. As I trained further and further, certain things about the external Kung Fu caused problems. It wasn't fitting in with what I wanted, pathwise, meditation and so on. So I thought, well, I need to keep training. How do I make this work? So I focused more on Tai Chi. It was just the Kung Fu, because Tai Chi is Kung Fu, that to me seemed more compatible with the spiritual path.
Many people talk about Tai Chi being qigong and meditation. What are your comments about that?
Yeah, the problem with these terms is they get thrown around like loosely, which is okay. What really matters is what your teacher means when he uses these terms. It's not about checking the dictionary term. However, if we don't have any frame of reference, the words lose all meaning. So people say Tai Chi is meditation. Well, I've talked about this before. No, samadhi is meditation. Or
what's samadhi?
Mental absorption, true stillness, single-pointed stillness. The union of the knowing quality with the energy of the mind. Subject, object, union. But Tai Chi, of course, we're not doing that. We're moving. So if you're moving, you're not single-pointed. You can't move physically and be in that absolute state at the same time. So meditation, no. Is it mindful practice? Is it a practice of awareness? Yes. But in my terminology, that's not meditation proper. It's part of developing the mind, yes. And developing the mind to lead towards meditation, yes. So then people say Tai Chi is qigong, but qigong is not yet Tai Chi. What that is pointing towards is the idea of that, of course, you're working with the qi, you're moving the qi around, so therefore Tai Chi is qigong, that's true. But qigong is not yet Tai Chi because not all qigong is working yin-yang and it doesn't have the martial aspect and all that. So that's sort of a common view. My view on this is that when you begin Tai Chi, it's none of those things, it's just really silly, simple movement, not even good exercise. In fact, Tai Chi is the worst exercise in the world if you're not doing the internal work, right? You're better off doing swimming, aerobics, jogging, yoga, anything. Anything is better than Tai Chi Chuan. Without the internals, it's useless. Maybe you learn how to get a bit of balance if you're really old or something like that, which has value, but it's basic. So then you get a little better until your movement, the shape, the actual external movement, moves the qi inside your body. So that the outside is leading the inside. The outside is active, the qi is passive. It gets moved via the outside. So this is what qigong is. Qigong is when the movement moves the qi, right? The movement and breath. So in that stage, yes, Tai Chi is qigong. Then you develop further, hopefully, until the Shen Yi qi, the internals are moving the body. So now the mind and qi is active and the body is passive. So the qi is moving the body. Then it has become neigong. So first Tai Chi is qigong. Well, first it's nothing. Then it's qigong. Then it's neigong. Ultimately, at the highest levels, It's alchemical, but we don't need to worry about that. Just getting up to the Neigong is pretty good going. So you understand what I'm saying? There's a difference between the outside leading the inside and the inside leading the outside, or the body moving the chi around, or the chi moving the body around. So this is like phases of practice as you progress.
What is your definition of mindfulness?
Mindfulness means to keep the mind full of something. So the quality of recollection, or to keep something on the mind. So if you're being mindful of the body, it means that you don't forget about the mind. You constantly recollect, keep the awareness on the body. That would be mindfulness of body. If you're mindful of sensation, right, then the mind is full of awareness of sensations. You never forget your sensations. You don't forget sensation and jump out to sights, sounds, or whatever. That would be losing mindfulness of sensation. So mindfulness is just that ability to recollect and keep the mind full of something. Mindfulness these days is touted as something positive, and people are using it, I think, with psychology and stuff like that. And the more they do this, the more they're going to find out that there's problems with this, because mindfulness is not innately positive. Right mindfulness is positive. Mindfulness is just a mental quality. So a sniper has amazing mindfulness. They're not distracted, their mind is full of the target, right? Race car driver, they have exceptional mindfulness while they're racing, but it's not the same thing that we're looking for when we're talking about spiritual development, developing the mind, and so on. You need to have right mindfulness. So it's not just being mindful, it's why you're being mindful, what you're being mindful of, like that.
Could you give some examples of good, positive mindfulness and things that maybe practices of things to be mindful of whilst doing Tai Chi or being on the spiritual path?
It's very simple. Your body, your mind. That is all. So your mindfulness should be internal. Internal means inside. Inside your experience, which is all happening here, right? So to be mindful of the body, mindful of sensation, of chi, of mind stuff, things happening in the mind, potentially mindful of mind itself, but you need samadhi to achieve that. Mindful of mindfulness, mindful of awareness. So it's about everything that's happening here inside. That's what you would call right mindfulness. Wrong mindfulness is external mindfulness. Right mindfulness is internal mindfulness.
Now you say that Tai Chi is a path of reversal. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so we have like the natural flow of things. From the absolute, through emptiness, through Tai Chi, to yin-yang manifested 10,000 things. This is like from the creative force down to all this matter. That's what you would call the normal path, the ascending path. The path, back to the absolute, of course, because we're starting here in this material realm of yin-yang, of the 10,000 things, is reversing that order to get back up. So it's not just a description of Tai Chi, it's a description of the path itself. So in Tai Chi, we're training to achieve Tai Chi. That's so difficult because we have no idea what Tai Chi is. Zero, because nothing in the 10,000 things is Tai Chi. It's all a different balance of yin-yang. Where Tai Chi is this potential of yin-yang, which has harmony, a massive potential of yin-yang, but it's not broken into yin-yang. Now, this is outside of our experience, so how do we train it? We train it by starting to learn what is yin, what is yang. What's hard, what's soft, what's up, down, left, right, things like this, basic fundamental qualities. So we start at the 10,000 things, and we refine our way up, getting closer and closer to this harmony of yin and yang, where they're in balance, zhong ding, or the equilibrating state between yin and yang where they're in harmony. So that is Tai Chi. We use the yin yang to gradually, from far away, from yin and yang having a massive dichotomy, and we gradually balance and harmonize until we achieve Tai Chi, which is a great stillness, potential for energy and change. It's equilibrium. That equilibrium between these dualities gives us the potential to pass through emptiness, to penetrate emptiness. Because if you don't have that balance, you can't penetrate emptiness. All the great traditions will talk about having equanimity. Without equanimity, you cannot achieve and penetrate through emptiness. So Tai Chi is a kind of equanimity. As you penetrate through that emptiness, on the other side, of course, is the absolute. So the path has gone back the other way. This we call the path of reversal.
Now, on a crude level, when we, for example, when you fajin somebody, or when we take a force in and redirect it, on the physical plane, there's things that we talk about. One part of the rib maybe being yang, and then the other part being yin. But this naturally then develops into the higher levels.
Yes, Tai Chi has to be yin-yang everywhere, every facet of the body, every facet of the qi, every facet of the mind and awareness. There's yin-yang all the way. Otherwise, you've stepped outside of the path towards Tai Chi. So, of course, you start crude. The biggest mistake on practice and on the path that people make is they try to jump levels. It can't be done. All you do is end up imagining and pretending that you're doing a higher level and not even doing the basics. Kung Fu comes from basics. The practice is in the basics, and they gradually build. So if your body's not organized in yin-yang, you don't need to worry about the qi. You don't need to worry about Shen, emptiness. Forget it. Forget it. So yeah, you've got to start with the basics.
Now, there's so many forms out there, and then sometimes I even see it in our crew when we're training, that we're refining certain forms. And you mentioned one time that you do a certain form for a particular practice or for your body. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so there's this idea in the Tai Chi world, like, this form's better than that form, or I want, the oldest form or the secret form. I want the fast form, and it's just children in a play yard. It's crazy. And then they try to make their form perfect. Oh, my form's so perfect. So you are perfecting the form, as if the form has innate value. It's crazy. The purpose of the form is to perfect you. It's not for you to perfect the form. So what happened was, when things become standardized, and they went, this is the form, then everyone tries to make the form the same as the standardized version to make it perfect, and then they think they're good at Tai Chi, right? But the true purpose of form is to train you, to train your body, your qi, and your mind, to turn it into Tai Chi. Form is just an exercise, right? Why make the exercise perfect? The exercise is there to serve you. You're not meant to serve the exercise. So, for example, you're doing grass sparrow's tail. Different forms. I mean, I know many different forms within the Yang family, and it's different. They're different versions of the same postures. So which one's the right one? Which one's the traditional one? Well, you're training different things, because the form is to train you. So maybe you're training to open, right? So it's big and open. Or maybe you're training something tighter, so it's small. Maybe you're training certain stepping, so there's stepping or there isn't stepping. Or you're training a certain jin, so it totally changes the way you move, because you're just using form to train skills. So before stupidity took over, people would use the form to train a skill. Now, say you went and learned with a master, and you trained for a while, and he taught you a way that was good for you, maybe dependent on your natural talent or something like that. So he teaches you to do the form this way. You get pretty good, then master takes off to a different city and you're like, oh, Sifu's gone. Then you start teaching your students, well, what do you teach them? You teach them the form that you learn. Then they think that is the form, right? But somebody else with a different character, a different physicality, maybe they got a different variation of the form. Or maybe it was a different time in the teacher's life. Maybe he was young and going hard. Maybe he was old and refined, right? Maybe he was focusing on a different aspect. So this gives rise to all these different variations of the same form. Because truly there's only one form. They're just variations. Does that answer it? Does that make sense?
I guess. And you say there's truly one form, and I think this is where people kind of get confused by it. If there's just that one form, at which point is it perfect, and at which point is it, can people kind of differentiate between what is right and what is wrong for them?
Well, how many yang forms I have, I don't know, 8 or something. But they're all the same form, even though they're totally different. They're the same sequence, essentially. It's just focusing on building a different thing totally changes the external look of the form. But like I said before, it's not about making the form perfect. It's about using the form as a tool to take you closer along the path of reversal towards Tai Chi. The goal is Tai Chi. The goal is not this sequence. That would be dance.
Something that's very big about your teaching is the idea of release. And can you elaborate a little bit more from physical to more of the spiritual practice?
I like to say that there are 2 primary qualities. Now, of course, there's more, but the fundamental 2, like the mother and father of all internal work. Not just meaning in Tai Chi, including sitting work, alchemical work, samadhi, qigong, neigong, Daoyin, Tai Chi Chuan, anything. It all exists within this parameter of the mother and father. Song, or release, and Ting. So Ting is often translated as sensitivity. I don't like that. It's like being gluten sensitive, right? That's not something you want to be. You don't want to be sensitive. You want to be aware. You know everything that's going on, but you're not sensitive to it. Like emotionally sensitive. So, oh no, he looked at me funny, and you get upset. That's not a desirable quality. You want awareness. So Ting is the knowing quality, the aware, awake quality that perceives in real time. And then release, Song. So release is the opposite of holding. Release is the opposite of clinging. So physically, when we're holding and clinging, the muscles are tight, the qi doesn't flow, the body's not harmonized. So we need to develop this release to achieve any basic skill whatsoever. Then the qi can move and everything. Mentally, of course, if we're clinging and holding, well, we're neurotic and crazy, and basically we have no chance. The essence of the spiritual work is release. We need to release our identification with self. So Song, our identification with self. So Song happens in the body, which changes the qi, which affects the mind. And Song happens in the mind, which changes the qi, which affects the body. So it's complete and absolutely fundamental every step of the way. If you're ever training internal work and you're not Song, you know you've stepped outside of the internal path. If you're ever training internal work and you're not applying Ting, you're not aware, you know you've stepped outside of the internal path. So these 2 are like the walls on each side that keep you on the path. You don't want to bump into the wall or go out a doorway where you exit that straight and narrow path. Now the special thing is that their mother and father, when they come together, they produce the offspring of progress on the path. They work with each other. So release increases the knowing quality, Song increases Ting, and knowing quality increases release. Ting increases Song. They're codependent. And as one increases, the other one increases, and you go up like a ladder and ascend the path. Simple explanation. Imagine you injure your shoulder Okay, if you're anything like me, you know just what every injury feels like. So you've hurt your shoulder. So it's all inflamed and swollen and it's locked up, right? In other words, when it's locked up and injured like that, there's no release. It's blown up, it's tight. There's no soul. Now, someone says, "Oh, get your mind inside your shoulder and articulate your shoulder." You can't, because it feels like a big lump of mud, of clay. You can't articulate, you can't penetrate with the mind. It feels like a lump. The lack of release blocks the knowing quality from getting in. It's impossible. So, you take an anti-inflammatory or something, it releases a little. Oh, now I can feel it, right? Now your mind can get inside. So now you have Ting. You get more Ting, then you can use the Ting to command soul, to make more release. The Ting commands more sung. More sung allows more release, allows more knowing. More knowing, you can increase the sung. More sung allows deeper knowing. They feed off each other. They work together. Without them, there's no path at all. Same thing happens with emotional qualities, mental qualities, everything.
What's qi in Tai Chi Chuan?
Okay. Well, I never like to just say what qi is in the terms of giving it a translation. We just use the word qi. Now, for people that understand qi, I'll say this. You need some of it, more than how much is keeping you alive. The qi that's keeping you alive is not sufficient. You need more. So there are important factors to build up the qi, to become successful in Tai Chi. Not just Tai Chi as martial art, but Tai Chi as path. We all know the basic sources, right? Food, air, and the sun. They're sort of the main sources. You need sun, you got to breathe, and you got to eat. Eat good food and enough of it. Breathe good air and breathe deeply, but more importantly, breathe good air. It doesn't matter if you're doing fancy breath patterns and you're breathing in city air, right? You need good air. And get some sun. Get out of the office. So that's a basic fundamental just to get some postnatal qi. Then there's the qi that we have from mummy and daddy, right? That we're born with and that we throw away by being twisted sexually and like partying, basically. So too much sex and watching pornography and being nuts and taking drugs and drinking and all that kind of stuff. It's all good in moderation, but too much you deplete that kind of qi. So you have to increase through good habits and maintain some form of restraint. Restraint is at the essence of the path, so that you don't throw everything away. Now, what throws qi away? Well, sex and drugs and all that, of course, but there's something much worse. The great culprit is emotion. Our emotions burn the qi up. So you need to get a hold of yourself and find some kind of equanimity, like we were talking about before, some kind of stillness, so the emotions aren't burning up all your qi. If you train in the morning and do your qigong and try and develop qi and eat good food and then you're an emotional wreck every day, you're never going to get anywhere. It's not going to happen. You're just spending more than you're earning, right? So this is basic qi, how to increase the nei qi, the internal qi that's basically just like the medical qi in our organs running through our meridians, that just everywhere. This is vital. You must increase the actual substance itself. If you don't have any substance, you don't have anything to work with. Now that's standard for all internal practice, not for Tai Chi. But Tai Chi is different. Even though we have the same substance, it changes when we start to do Tai Chi Chuan. When you practice Tai Chi, the yin-yang differential creates the specific qi of Tai Chi. The differential between stillness and movement and other aspects of yin and yang create the qi of Tai Chi out of the nei qi, out of the standard qi, which is our health qi. So you need to build the health qi, and then when you do the training, it changes it. It turns it into the Tai Chi, the qi of Tai Chi. So difficult to explain, but let's just say that yin yang creates it. And if you understand electricity at all, that's a hint.
Dantian, it's something, the Dantian is quite misunderstood of where it is, what it is. Different systems have different places for it. What is your understanding of it in your system of Tai Chi?
So once again, look, these terms, it depends what your teacher means when he says it. But generally in Tai Chi, it's totally misunderstood. For one, people talk about it a lot, but they can't even open their shoulders. So it's like, oh, my awesome Dantian power, but your shoulders are totally locked up, so really the power can't even get past your arm. So it's above your pay grade is usually what I say. Don't worry about it. Then there's people that move their waist and use this kind of stuff and call it the Dantian, but it's the waist. That's the waist. That's your abdominal muscles, or you're moving the muscles in your waist. I'm pretty sure the Dantian is not the muscles in your waist, so the waist is not the Dantian. What it isn't is important. The Dantian is the Dantian. It's not the waist. Okay, so elixir field. You're not born with it. So if you haven't made it, it doesn't matter. It's made from specific practices. It's created. It's generated. And honestly, in Tai Chi Chuan, it only matters at very high levels. Usually what we're using is the qi in the abdominal bag, which you could call the sea of qi. And you're moving and mobilizing the qi of your whole body and this sea of qi to create power. Not using Dantian proper most of the time. Most people, when they're talking about the Dantian, they're really talking about the waist. And it's inaccurate use of the term. A lot of alchemical terms have been thrown in because of the source of Tai Chi Chuan. And at the higher levels, yes, it would be true. You would be using the real Dantian. But for pretty much everybody, it doesn't matter. They're just going to be using their body. So they're using the waist, which is okay, but let's call it the waist.
So we don't really even have a Dantian at the beginning?
That's right. You only have a Tian. You only have the field. The elixir is made from alchemy, really. Not from moving your waist around in fancy patterns or from talking about the Dantian. So what's funny is that it becomes a kind of arrogance common, where people are like, oh, you're using your legs or you're using the ground, but I'm better than you, I'm using Dantian power, something like that. Which is laughable because all those people don't even have a Dantian. So, how can you do that when you don't have a Dantian? It's just people using words to make themselves think they're better than other people. Sales tricks as well. The true Dantian is developed. And yes, at the highest levels of Tai Chi, yes. But what most people need to be concerned with is how to use their legs and their qua and their waist and how to use their body. And actually to get some chi, right? They don't even have any chi, let alone a Dantian.
At which point does one have a Dantian? Does that mean it's something physical?
No, it's chi. You have the Dan, which is made out of Jing, Qi and Chen, Jing, Qi and Shen, combined in a certain way from certain exercises. Then you have a Dantian. You have the pill, the elixir. Without that, you don't have it. But even just Qi properly, that's not just waist Qi, most people don't have that. They need to be more concerned with filling the sea of Qi. So we think that this sort of basin, right, in the waist and the pelvic girdle, I guess, the abdominal bag, needs to be filled with Qi. So by increasing the Nei Qi of our health, by food and breathing and sun and standing practice and doing the form and sinking the Qi so it fills up. If you don't sink the Qi, it's not going to fill up, it's all going to go up. then you actually get a sea of qi, right? So then when you move, you can mobilize out and move through your limbs, move through the Jin Lu, the power lines, to create the powers of Tai Chi Chuan. That's a more important concern than just using fancy words.
Could you talk a little bit more about Shen Yi?
So, same thing, where people talk about it and have no idea, basically. Of course, there are people that know, but the problem is people just throw terms around. E. Okay. This is complicated. Use E, don't use Li. They say use the mind intention, don't use force. Use the mind, don't use stupid body force. So people do crazy stuff. I mean, some people imagine like rivers and lakes and things while they're doing the form, which is insane. Or more down to earth, they'll just put the intention out there and then move their body, and they think that's moving using E but not using force, but it isn't, because they're just putting their mind out there and just using their body normally, and it's not working. What we want is to harmonize E and Qi. So part of internal harmony is the harmonization of E and Qi. Now, in my opinion, in this instance, harmony means to be bound together, right? To be unified in a way. It's a union of Shen Yi Qi that we want. So when our E moves, our Qi moves. Now, it's a normal saying in qigong, where the mind goes, the qi goes, sort of. But when they're tied together, it really happens. So for a normal person, if they think about their hand for a few minutes, they start getting a bit of qi there. That's useless for Tai Chi Chuan. You need a lot to go there, and in an instant, right? So it's not a normal, natural process. You have to tie the E and qi together. So this is done via the training process by bringing your intention, right? Bringing the awareness, the consciousness and the Shen inside the body, bringing your E, your intention and command inside the body, and commanding song and sequences of movement to move the qi until the moving E inside your body and qi are together, bound together, unified, become one. That's how you train the E. By doing the internal mechanics. When that's totally done, when they're husband and wife, when they're married, when they're harmonized, then just the intention, forward, back, left, right, up, down, as the intention goes out, the qi gets mobilized because they're naturally harmonized. But just putting the intention there without previously training it to be married to the qi, they won't work together.
With that said, what is then the difference between internal and external?
There's really no such thing as an internal style and an external style. There's only internal training and external training. So training your muscles and bones and tendons, that's external training. Training the mind and qi, that's internal training. All traditional styles have both. All traditional kung fu has both. An external style, as we call it, has maybe 95% training the external part and just 5% qigong trying to build up some qi. An internal style is the other way. More training the qi, less training the external. In terms of martial arts, kung fu, Tai Chi Chuan is the most extreme example of most of the training is focused on the internal, less focused on the external. So it's called an internal style because most of the training is internal training. Training the body, external training, training the qi, internal training.
Because Tai Chi is also a form of martial arts, from a first glance, it may seem that it might not be the best tool for the spiritual development in comparison to meditation or yoga. What are your thoughts about that?
Yes. Of course, looking for fights or getting in the ring every weekend and that kind of behavior, which is base behavior, is not good for developing the mind and the spirit. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I don't know anyone that's got high skill that's orientated that way, really. Maybe when they were younger, a bit like that. But let's think about this. Fight or flight, okay? Our reaction to stress. Surely the spiritual work has a lot to do with our relationship with stress. I mean, according to the Buddha, that's the entire path, right? About our relationship to stress. So, using the martial art to learn, to cultivate a more sophisticated reaction to stress until ultimately you transcend the yin-yang and you achieve the balance and you're no longer bound up by fight or flight, then that is a spiritual achievement. So the goal of Tai Chi Chuan, the fighting part, is to transcend the fight or flight response. So what happens is we always respond with fight or flight. Everyone does it all the time. Only people that have achieved the equanimity of Tai Chi don't respond with fight or flight. Now they might have achieved it through seated practice, they might have achieved it through Tai Chi Chuan, but very few people achieve it. So when you're not responding with fight or flight, you can respond with harmony. And Tai Chi Chuan is about harmony. So instead of running away, right, flight, in pushing hands we talk about stick, adhere, join, follow. Don't butt in, don't disconnect, right? So when we disconnect and we run away, that's the flight response, manifest in our physical pattern. And the opposite is when we butt in and use force, that's the fight response, manifest in our physical pattern. So even the lightest pressure, people respond like that. I'll teach a workshop of 100 people and touch everyone just with 2 grams of pressure, and every single person responds with fight or flight. It doesn't mean a big reaction like running away in tears or actually having a punch-up. It just means that your mind and nervous system is responding with yin or yang. It's not responding with harmony. So you're not reaching the transcendent of yin and yang. You're not reaching that balance to transcend in yin and yang. So we use the push hands training, we use the martial arts training to learn how to transcend the yin-yang response of fight or flight, to achieve harmony, to achieve equanimity, emptiness, Tao.
To perfect the listening quality, or Ting, would you say that at a certain point people can plateau if you just do push hands because it doesn't, to a certain degree, pose a real threat? So sparring may be something that having a real punch thrown at you cause this fight or flight. Would you supplement that at maybe the higher levels or even at the beginning levels to deepen the spiritual practice?
Yes, early stages, I think. When your Ting is deficient, you don't know you're responding with fight or flight. I mean, of course, if you're getting moved by your teacher, it means you're responding with fight or flight, period. If you weren't, you couldn't get moved. It's impossible to move you without the flight or flight response. It can't be done. However, because we're dull instruments and we don't realize, and we need a big flight or flight response to actually see it, then yeah, good, punch on. Get some real threat, and then you realize, oh, okay, I thought I was still, but really I'm scared and I'm angry and all this. But as you become more refined and your awareness becomes bigger, you don't need such crude input. You can see the subtle, right? We go from coarse to subtle. So the better you get, the less you need the coarse stuff. You see the tiny errors that before were invisible to you. So it's a path of refinement.
Because martial arts is confrontational and you're a martial arts teacher, do you also get challenged?
Yes. Unfortunately, I mean, I couldn't care less about fighting, as you know, not slightly. But yeah, I get plenty of that. When I was younger, I liked it. And, I was young and stupid and liked all that rubbish, and you have an ego and you want to get out there and get dirty, and it's all right for young men, but it shouldn't be the habit of people if they're like 40 years old or something. It's for teenagers, really. It's like grow up, basically. However, yes, it happens. Now, if somebody makes a formal challenge and came in and actually voiced a challenge, I would just say, oh, you win. Just everyone is a witness, he is superior. I couldn't care less. What do you lose? It's a joke. What are they trying to do? You win, you're better. But people don't do that. I mean, I get challenged at least a few times every tour, but it's never like that. People jump you, they don't warn you, they just do it. So you don't even get a chance to give them the victory. It's just poor behavior from an adolescent mind. It happens, it doesn't matter. The result's always the same.
People ask, and this is mostly in the MMA sphere, why Tai Chi isn't a form that they see in many of those competitions. Why do you think that is?
It takes decades to get good at. By then you're too old to do that. It takes a sophisticated mind to get good at it. After decades of doing that, your mind's not going to be very sophisticated after getting hit in the head hundreds of times. The kind of mind and person that has more potential to get good at Tai Chi Chuan is going to be more introspective, more quiet, more meditative, and MMA is kind of the opposite, because they're opposites in every way. Because in MMA you want what works now, right? Their whole theory is based on what works. We use what works. But what that actually means is we use what works within a week of trying it. If I tried it in the ring for a week and it didn't work, you throw it out as a technique that doesn't work. Nothing in Tai Chi Chuan works after a week. It takes years. It's simply not suitable to their philosophy. Not in any way. Zero. Not practical.
People talk about using Tai Chi practices or qualities of it to supplement in their other fighting form. What do you think about that?
I think that's more like using a bit of internal to supplement your fighting form, not using Tai Chi. So if you use some Jin to generate punching power, right? Yeah, great, I'm all for it. But that's not using Tai Chi, that's using Jin. Now you might use Tai Chi training to develop your Jin, but Tai Chi is not that. It's not the same thing. Just using internal power doesn't mean you're using Tai Chi. Or just using a bit of yielding or going with the flow or relaxation, that's not Tai Chi either, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
When is Jin Jin and when is it just crude force?
Well, it depends on what your teacher says. I mean, Jin in one style is not the same as Jin in another. Jin just means refined force. So even external styles have Jin, but they have external Jin. And internal styles have internal Jin, Nei Jin. My definition is, when the power is generated by the mobilization of Qi, that's Jin. When it's generated by just mobilization of the body, that's external force. If it's generated by the mobilization of the body and supported by the Qi, that's still external force. Nei Jin is when the power is actually coming from the Qi mobilization to create Jin. Yeah. But it's specific for Tai Chi Chuan, or maybe even specific for my view of it. It really matters what your teacher thinks, what he means when he says that word. It's not about arguing on the internet about what it is. What does your teacher mean when he says Jin? So you can follow instruction, right? That's the key point.
So what is the end goal of Tai Chi?
Definitely become immortal, enlightenment, union with God, union with the Tao, Nibbana.
Now, immortality doesn't mean living forever within this
No,
physical form. So, immortality, how?
It means enlightenment.
A lot of people would see immortality, well, if you get reborn anyways, so that's immortality to a certain extent.
Yeah, but it's not you anymore, is it? Otherwise, why don't you tell me about all your past life cycles? You can't, because it's not you. Rebirth, it's a new birth, it's a new thing that happened. It's not you continuing. So immortality is transcending that cycle, being free from that cycle. No longer bound by birth and death, that's immortality.
And then what's next?
After immortality? I think that will do. But that's definitely the goal. I mean, the founder is like the most highly achieved practitioner probably in all of the history of China. The founder was an immortal, and this is his masterpiece, right? His masterpiece was not for punching and kicking. You spend your whole life developing alchemy and the path to immortality and enlightenment. You're all-round absolute master, and then your masterpiece is, I don't think so, right? The goal is immortality. Now, even in the text it says, this art is not just for self-defense, but for longevity. Longevity is another word that means immortality, which means enlightenment.
Many women practice Tai Chi, and physically, men and women are different. Does that also mean the path in training is also different?
I'd rather talk more generally about the path than about Tai Chi for this. Because when we say Tai Chi, it's who, what school, what training. It's just, it means a different thing to different people, even though it shouldn't. So the path in general, it's the same for men and women. But men and women are different, and not just physically. So the classic saying is, and this exists in many traditions, the path is difficult for men in the beginning and easier at the end. The path is easier for women in the beginning and more difficult at the end. So this is, I'll probably get attacked, of course, and probably I must be a Nazi now. How dare you differentiate something? Discernment is banned. Okay. So at the risk of using discernment, the lower Dantian, the lower region, is associated with sex desire. Okay? Now, we all know that men struggle with sex desires more than women in general. Okay? Then as you move up, more central area, it's associated more with emotion. So you move your way up. So in the beginning, it's hard for men. You have to like stop ejaculating, okay? That's hard for men. That's easy for women. It's hard for men, it's easy for women. So the very first cause is to consolidate the jing, to stop ejaculating, to calm down sexually so that you can accumulate some qi, right? That's very difficult for men. Men struggle. Most fail at the very first stage. Women breeze on by. But then we move up higher. Okay, now we're into the emotional stuff, right? That's much easier for men, and then the women struggle. So the path is the same, but the way they progress is not. And that means that there's slight different timing and some different aspects of exercises along the way. It's one path, but there's difference in the way people walk it. Okay? Does that answer it? Yeah.
Yes. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Congrats.